Well, shalom, everyone. I'm Jerry Heelan with Yahweh's Evangelical Assembly. I don't know if I need to go through this spiel all the time, but anyway, you can contact me if you'd like. A lot of people do. 903-826-1804. That's my cell phone number. Then 903-796-7420 is our landline. You can contact me by email, Jerry Heelan at sbcglobal.net. We have a website, has a lot of good things on it. As a matter of fact, it has this magazine on it here, The Creation versus Evolution. Now, this is a roughly 44-page magazine. And it's got an article, Creation versus Evolution, Answering Evolution, Consider the Egg, the Laws of Thermodynamics Disprove Evolution. Did Elohim create everything that exists? Scientists forced into a U-turn. The Great Witness of DNA. Consider the giraffe. The Battle for the Cell. You'll learn a lot in that. Consider the camel. Human mutation clock confirms creation. Human evolution speeding up. Yeah, right. And evolutionists admit that most human mutations occurred in the last 5,000 years. So you have this book free of charge, or you can go to yea777.org and download it free of charge. We have it there in PDF form. This is still the 6th day of the Days of Unleavened Bread, but starting at after sunset tonight will be the 7th and final day. And it's amazing how quickly everything goes by. I think when you get older, things really go by. They just whiz by real fast. And see, I've gotten older. No hair up here. It all transferred down here. Anyway, yeah, time goes by so fast. Matter of fact, I announced that I'd try to be on around 6:30 to 7 o'clock this evening, and I looked at my watch and it was 6:40, and I just gotten out of the shower. So here I am, all clean, new, refreshed, and hopefully ready to go. I want to go before Yahweh in prayer to begin this message. And I don't plan on keeping you too long, because I will have to get up early in the morning and put together another message for tomorrow afternoon. I'll try to be on back again tomorrow afternoon at 1. You know, it's the last high day, and we should have something, some teachings and all. We need teachings, brethren, because the teachings these days come around and around and around. But what we do is I go over them more and more and more, and the more I go over them, the more new things I learn about them. And so you'll hear a lot of the same things out of me, but you'll hear some new things too that, new things to me anyway, that I just will have out and discovered. So let's go before Yahweh in prayer. Father Yahweh, thank you so much for this time that we're having in the Days of Unleavened Bread. We're towards the end of the 6th day and the beginning of the 7th, and I pray that each one of us has learned many valuable lessons during this period of time. It is an important time, Father in heaven. It's a time that you have appointed for us to observe, and we, because you've called us out of this world, because you have called us out of this world, Father in heaven, we are learning more about your ways. And certainly thank you so much for it, because we still live in a world that is primarily so blinded, so deceived, Father in heaven. It's awful. It's horrible. How marvelous this world is going to be, and not really this world, but the world when Yahshua returns and he establishes the kingdom of heaven. What a marvelous world that's going to be, because that time there'll be no lying, there'll be no thievery, there'll be no adultery, there'll be no false Elohim. The world is going to be at peace and rest, and that's what we're looking forward to and what we're praying for. In the meantime, Father, we need your protection and your blessings upon us. You know, your word says that if we walk after your ways, and especially in the book of Psalms 91, no plague is going to come upon us. And we're facing plagues in this world today. And I know that there are going to be more and even more severe plagues, Father, more deadly, more dangerous, because Yahshua himself said that except the times are shortened, no flesh would be left alive. So he has to intervene, but we haven't come to that exact point yet. But we just give you the thanks and praise for these days, for calling us out of this world, for teaching us of your ways and giving us the faith and the hope and the love and the confidence, Father in heaven, to know that everything is going to be in your hands and you are going to save your creation. We thank you for that. And now just ask you to open my mind, my heart, my mouth, and open all of our minds, our hearts, and our mouths to be able, Father in heaven, to declare your greatness, your might, your marvelous and glorious wonders. And so I give you the thanks and praise and commit this message into your hands so that you can make a lot more sense out of it than I can. In Yahshua's name, I pray and ask these things, thanking and praising you. Hallelujah. Amen. Okay. Hallelujah. Well, brethren, what I wanted to do, I've got this book here. It's by David Flynn. It's the David Flynn collection, and it has an article here entitled "The Temple at the Center of Time," and another one, Sidonia. Now, I haven't read Sidonia. I haven't read all of this other one yet either, but I'm telling you, there is some awesome information in here. And he gives a different sized cubit than most people, most scientists and biblical scholars and all assign. Most people say, well, a cubit was maybe 18 inches to 21 inches or so. David says that a cubit was 25 point. Let's go over here to the book of Daniel 5. Going to be dealing with numbers tonight. A lot of numbers, brethren. So let's go over here to Daniel chapter 5. And old Belshazzar, the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his masters, his sovereigns, his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, he probably got a little bit on the lewd side, don't you think? He commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels, which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple, which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. So they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of Elohim, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the Elohim of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone, using Yahweh's things. And brethren, that's what Constantine has done. This is supposed to be Yahweh's work. Constantine and King James, by the way, have made it into an instrument to praise all these pagan idols. That's the way it is. That's the world. That's the world's leaders, brethren. Keep your finger here. Let's go to Psalms 2. Don't ever forget Psalms 2. brethren. This is a powerful Psalms that that is even referred to in the book of Acts when the New Testament assembly was praying to Yahweh about all of the things that were happening to them, negative things that were happening to them. So it says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and Belshazzar was a king of the earth. They set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together. So he had 1,000 of his rulers there. You had King Belshazzar, 1,000 of his rulers, and the wives and the concubines and so forth. And they take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed, his Messiah, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Well, he that sits in the heavens shall laugh. You know, there is no saying that he who laughs last laughs best, right? He who laughs last laughs best. Well, I believe Yahweh's going to laugh last. Don't you? So they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house and they praised. Oh, yeah. So we've read that. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed. Ooh. And his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. This was a terrifying thing. His knees were knocking together, and it says his joints were loosed. In other words, he pooed and he urinated all over himself. What a mess, huh? Smelly mess. Nasty mess. So the king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers, and the king spoke. Oh, I wonder how they could stand the smell. Oh, sorry. And the king spoke and said to the wise men of Babylon, whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Belshazzar was second ruler. His father was first. Then came all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. See, it came from Yahweh. And unless Yahweh opens a person's mind to be able to see and know and understand what's written, even in his word, people can't understand it. I know how it feels, because when I was a teenager, probably about 15, 16 years old, my mother had bought this huge Bible and she prominently always displayed on the coffee table in the middle of the living room, right? Nobody ever picked it up and read it. Well, I did. One time I picked it up and started reading it, but we weren't observing Yahweh's way. And so it didn't make any sense to me at the time. It wasn't time for Yahweh to call me yet. He had to let me go on and experience some life and some outside life and living before he called me to his truth, to show me what his word really meant. But I understand. At that time, I couldn't understand. But now Yahweh's called me and opened my mind and my eyes so I can see. And if you're watching this broadcast, he's doing the same thing to you. So then was verse 9, then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his masters were astonished. Well, they were not only astonished, they were worried. What in the world is going on here? Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his masters, his sovereigns, his rulers, came into the banquet house, and the queen spoke and said, O king, live forever. Let not your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance be changed. There's a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy Elohim. And in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the Elohim, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the king, I say, your father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. For as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting dreams and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, whom King Nebuchadnezzar, or whom King named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. So I'm just going to skip over a bunch of this. Daniel didn't care for the glory that Belshazzar was going to bestow upon him, because he wanted to serve Yahweh. He didn't need the glory of man. He didn't need man's glory and man's position. So let's just look here. Let's see. Belshazzar says in verse 16, I've heard of you, and you can make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, you shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be to yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O you king, the Most High Elohim gave Nebuchadnezzar your father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor, and for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would he slew, and whom he would he kept alive, and whom he would he set up, and whom he would he put down. But when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him, and he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was like the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High Elohim ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. Brethren, let's think about that for a minute. Did Yahweh set Barack Obama over America? Evidently. That's what it says right here. Did we like it? No, I didn't. I didn't like him. But I didn't rebel against him. I didn't do what there's a lot of people, here's Donald Trump, and he was elected in as president of the United States, and you've got a Democrat Party that's trying to kick him out. Interesting, isn't it? Do you not think that they'll be found fighting against Yahweh? They're fighting. They're trying to do the best they can. Is it possible that Yahweh's going to get angry at them? Well, he ought to already be angry at them. They've done so many evil things, brethren. Wicked and evil. Verse 22, and you, his son Belteshazzar, has not humbled your heart, though you knew all this, but have lifted up yourself against the sovereign of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your masters, your sovereigns, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine in them. And you have praised the Elohim of silver and of gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, the Elohim in whose hand your breath is, the Elohim in whose hand our breath is, brethren, and whose are all your ways have you not, whose are all your ways have you not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written, many, many tekel upharsin. And this is the interpretation of the thing, many. Elohim has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you are weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Peres, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Well, there's another secret message here, brethren, because many is a mina. There's another number here, another number. His kingdom perished that night in 539 CE. No, BCE. 539 BCE. And there's some amazing things about this that I'm going to show you that this guy, David Flynn, has revealed. But I've known about this many tekel upharsin and the other secret message that it conveys for many years, because I was a member of Worldwide Church of God, and they studied into it and they knew what it meant. Many is for mina. Mina is a well, it has to do with 50 shekels. A mina is 50 shekels. It's a numbering system. So you got mina, 50 plus 50, that's 100, right? Upharsin or Peres has to do with dividing that mina into 25. So you've got 125. And then you got tekel, that's 1 shekel. So you got 126 shekels. Now, a shekel is equivalent to 20 gerahs. 20 gerahs. When you get me, I'm Jerry. I'm a gerah. And you got Jerah Osborne. We only get 2 shekels together, two gerahs together. But anyway, it's 126 shekels. And there's 20 gerahs to a shekel. So you multiply that by 20, and it's 2,520 is the product. 2,520. Now, Babylon was raised up about 612, but she invaded the Holy Land through the Holy Land. Nebuchadnezzar went to fight against Pharaoh Necho, however you want to say it, whom he defeated in 605, but he passed through the land of Israel, and he took a lot of people captive then in 606. And then in 603, he took other captives. Well, if you take 606 to 603 from 2,520, guess what time period you get? Down in the ages. How about 1914 to 1917, 1918? What happened at that time? Well, there was a great war going on. A war that was called, we call it World War I, but it was originally called the Great War. The Great War. So 2,520 years later, from at 539, it fell first in 539. And then, Babylon went from Babylon to Persia, the Medo-Persian Empire to the Macedonian Greek Empire begun by Alexander, and then to the Roman Empire, especially begun by the Caesars. But there's a lot of history there. I'm not going to go into all that history at this time. But let's go over here to the book of Revelation, chapter. In due process of time, brethren, Revelation chapter 18. In due process of time, $2,520 later, from the time around the time that Babylon ascended, Babylon, Rome was the inheritor of Babylon. And so Rome is modern day Babylon, but Rome was divided between East and West. You had the eastern half of the kingdom at first at Constantinople, and the western half of the kingdom at Rome. But then after Constantinople was overthrown, the eastern half of the empire, the headquarters, was moved to Moscow, Russia, which became the third Rome. And the Kaiser Wilhelm, Kaiser is the Latin word for and German word for Caesar. Tsar, Khazar, C-Z-A-R, is the Russian word for Caesar. So you had a Caesar who was ruling the eastern half of the Roman Empire, the Russian Tsar. And you had the German Kaiser Wilhelm, who was ruling the western half of the Roman Empire. And both the east and the west, western halves of the empire fell, were overcome, were overthrown in 1914 to 1918. And so it says here in Revelation 18, verse 4, I heard another voice from heaven saying, wait a minute, let's see. Oh, okay, it's verse 1. After these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen, is fallen once, is fallen twice. The eastern half fell, and actually it fell first, and then the western half fell to the Allies. The eastern half fell to the communists, and the western half fell to the Allies, the Western Allies. Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And brethren, that's what's happened since then. Look at World War II and what happened in World War II. Look at the Korean War. Look at the Vietnam War. Look at all of the wars that we've been fighting since that time. And there's been even more. You know, the communists of the eastern half of the Roman Empire, I mean, they were going into filtering into South America and Central America and other nations around this world. And they were had a vendetta to establish the Red Communist doctrine. And they tortured people, they killed people. I mean, they sowed terror, death, torture, suffering everywhere. And that's what supposedly what our forces, our American forces, were fighting against, was the communist takeover, because they took over Russia, they took over, of course, they had East Germany, they had Eastern Europe, they had China. China began to go communist and went red communist in a big way. You know, they fell. They fell. And that was 2,500 and right around 2,520 years later. That's interesting, brethren. That is so interesting, because this number, 2,520, is Well, let's talk about circles. Let me take you around some circles real quick. Okay, let me open up here. And let me get my my calculator up. Okay, the first day of the week, we begin it right after sunset, and we go full circle, don't we? The sun goes full circle. The sun and the moon and the stars and everything go full circle, 360 degrees in a 24-hour day, right? So you got 360 degrees the first day. Well, then the second day, you got 360 degrees. That's, I think that's 720. And then the third day, 360 degrees. That's 1,080. And then the fourth day, 360. $1,440 plus fifth day, 360, 1,800 plus 360, 2,160. In 6 days, you've gone 2,160 degrees. And then the seventh day, 360. 2,520. Wow, 2,520 degrees. You've got, if you have 7 360-degree circles, you have, and you add them together, you've got 2,520 degrees. And there's marvelous things, brethren. There's marvelous things about this creation that we don't even begin to see. I mean, scientists know about it. Mathematicians might know about it. But, unless you get into things like that, we're ignorant of those things. I was. I mean, I knew about Jericho, didn't you? Well, Jericho, you know where it gets its name from? It gets its name from Yerach. That's another Hebrew word for moon. It was the city of the moon. Yeracho. It was the city of the moon. They were moon worshipers. Well, Yahweh told Israel to march around Jericho one time around the city for 6 days. That's 2,160 degrees. Of course, the seventh day, they would march around 7 times. They marched around 2,520 degrees on the seventh day. But the amazing thing is, did you know that they were worshipers of the moon? And that, do you know what the diameter of the moon is? 2,160 miles. 360-degree circles. 2,160 miles. Isn't that awesome? But what about the Earth? Did you know that the Earth's diameter is 2,520 miles times pi? And that comes to about 7,917 miles. To get the circumference, you just multiply it times pi again. And you're going to get, I've got it written here so I don't have to get it all figured out. 24,872 miles is the circumference of the Earth. Now, all you people that think the Earth is flat, Yahweh doesn't work that way. Yahweh works in circles. In circles. It's just like every day of the week, you go in a 360-degree circle. and then the second day, and then the third day, and the fourth day, and fifth day, and sixth day, and seventh day, until you've gone 2,520 degrees. You ever think about that? Awesome stuff. Well, I took 2,520, and Israel was to have 7 times pass over her. Now, let's stop and think about this for a minute. Who are the modern day moon worshipers? Would that not be Islam? Mm. You go by their mosque. They've got 3 crescent moons on top of their mosque because they worship the moon. And guess who Joshua is going to have to put down at the end of 6,000 years, 1,000 year cycles. 1,000 years, 360, 2,000 years, 360, 3,000 years, 360, 4,000 years, 360, 5,000 years, 360, 6,000 years, 360. That's 2,160 degrees, equivalent to the diameter of the moon. And the ones who are prevalent have become prevalent in this end time. It's Islam. It's the Muslims. Well, you can now that you got this information, you might do a little more study into things, huh? So I took Israel went into captivity around 722, 723 BCE, and 2,520 years later is 1798, 1800 in that area, and that's when America began to just burst open, wide open. The Louisiana Purchase and all of that, and they'd gone through the war. They had established the Constitution. Was only 13 states at that time, but man, it just mushroomed, didn't it? Yahweh blessed America, blessed Israel. We are the descendants of Israel, and he has blessed us in these last days. Now, I'm not saying that we got this land by the best of actions. No, there's a lot of wicked men, a lot of evil men, a lot of men who broke all kinds of contracts, did all kinds of murdering and everything, because, hey, the heart of Israel hasn't changed yet. But Yahweh has blessed us with favor. And that's the reason why the Muslims want to destroy Judah and want to destroy us. We're the great Satan and they're the little Satan to them. Well, they're the moon worshipers. There's going to be a big battle, brethren. It's going to be a big one in these last days. I can guarantee you that right now. So here, this guy here, David Flynn, he says that the temple was at the center of time. So he's got this deal here, and he talks about Jerusalem was destroyed. The temple in Jerusalem and all Jerusalem was destroyed in 587 BCE. And since the temple was destroyed for Babylon, the center of religion was transferred to Nippur, a big city in Babylon. And Nippur is where Ezekiel was living around. And that was 587 miles from Jerusalem. The temple was destroyed in 587, and 587 miles east to Nippur The east is Nippur, where the center of that's where the center of religion was transferred to. And then when Babylon fell in 539, the city of Babylon, guess how many miles it fell in 539, and guess how many miles it is from Jerusalem? 539 miles. 539 miles. That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. And then John, when he was on the Isle of Patmos, writing the book of Revelation there on the Isle of Patmos, he was 539 nautical miles from Jerusalem west, writing about the failure, the falling of Jerusalem, of Babylon. I'm sorry. So, man, this stuff is just, I mean, I love to get into stuff like this. But now what I want to do is I want to go into, and golly, hold on just a second. Yahweh told the children of Israel to make a sanctuary for him. And so this would be the compound going around the sanctuary. This would be the tabernacle. This is the Ark of the Covenant, Holy of Holies. This is the menorah. This is the table of showbread. Here is the laver that they wash their hands and their feet. And this would be the altar of sacrifice. This is the eastern gate right here. The eastern gate. Now, the amazing thing is, this is 100 cubits from here to here in length. It's 100 cubits, 100 cubits long. And it's 50 cubits wide. Now, David says that a cubit is 25.2 inches. And I believe him, brethren, because when you multiply 100 times 25.2 inches, you get 2,520 inches. Isn't that amazing? 2,520 inches. Well, that's the number of degrees in 7 days. That's the number of degrees in 7 years. When you're going around in cycles, in circles, that's the number of degrees in 7,000 years. 2,520. Man, you can't make this stuff up. And then 50 cubits would be 1,260 inches. 1,260 inches. Well, let's see. And there, that's kind of like, well, the 100 cubits at 2,520 inches, that's like a week. And then when you go across, that's half a week, 1,260. And there's prophecies about 1,260 days. There's prophecies about weeks, right? Weeks and half weeks. 1,260 years, 1,260 days, 2,520 years, 2,520 degrees, 2,520 inches. And what's interesting, if you convert 2,520 inches into feet, you get 210 feet, which is 7. Whoa, the number 7 times 3 times 5 times 2. And if you divide 210 by 5, you get 42, which is 6 times 7. And that number 7, it just keeps coming up. And then if you take 1,260 and divide it by 5, it's 21, which is 3 times 7. Man, I mean, 7 in 3. They just keep coming up here, there, and everywhere in Yahweh's word, don't they? 7 and 3. So I think this is amazing, brethren. And what I did also is this 100 cubits, I took the number 100 and I just converted it into the Hebrew letter, which equals to 100, which is kuf. It's kuf. It equals 100. And the 50 equals to noon. And you know that makes a word. Let's go to Exodus 19. Exodus 19, verse 4. Exodus 19, verse 4. You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself on eagle's wings. Well, when you combine kuf and noon, you get the Hebrew word ken. And guess what that means? It means nest, a nest. Like an eagle's nest? I mean, brethren, when I discovered that the other day, I was flabbergasted. So these numbers are important and they're significant, and they keep turning up, brethren. They keep turning up. We're at the end of 6,000 years. We've gone 2,000, close to 2,160 degrees. There's going to be a big war at the end of 6,000 years, especially the war that's going to be fought against Yahshua in his return. He's got to put them all down, and he will. So we're getting close to that. We are at that period of time, brethren. We are at that. Have you seen what is happening with Islam all around the world? I mean, it's entering into areas and places where it never has been before. It's here in America. It's in England. It's in Europe. I mean, the Europeans had to fight tooth and nail to keep Islam out of Europe, didn't they? And it still got a toehold there in in some places in Spain, the Moors there, and then you have the Balkans, where you had Muslims that went into there, and then of course Turkey. Turkey was originally the eastern half of the Roman Empire and had Constantinople, the city of Constantinople there in the Bosphorus Straits. Well, it's all coming together, brethren, for Babylon to perish. The Babylonians are wicked. The Babylonians are evil. We need to repent of taking part in any of that wickedness and any of that evil. We need to be seeking Yahweh and pray for others in our families, not just our own personal families, but in the family of our people that have come into this place. We need to be praying for them, that Yahweh will work with them and turn their hearts and their minds. So I just wanted to bring these things to you tonight. I honestly didn't know how this was going to work out. I've already been 49 minutes, and that's a good short Bible study, because we will have a message tomorrow, probably a little bit longer. Hope. Maybe I don't hope. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Yahweh works out. But that's basically all I have tonight. I hope you've been blessed with this. I hope you've gained a little bit of knowledge about this. And brethren, I'm telling you, I've looked into this tabernacle. This is such an important element to me. so important because this tabernacle was anointed. So it was a type. Everything about it was a type of Yahshua in the service that he had to perform and do. From the priesthood to the offerings, the sacrifices, tabernacle itself represents him in one of his capacities or several of his capacities. So that's all I have for today, for this evening. I hope you have a good night. I hope and pray that this message has been a blessing to you. If it hasn't, well, hey, let me know. Let me know. You know, if you think I could have done something else, that's fine. Let me know about it. But anyway, Yahweh bless you and have a good night's rest. And let's wake up tomorrow and be ready for, we'll have our regular message tomorrow at about usual time, 1 to 1:30. In the meantime, better close with prayer. Father Yahweh, thank you so much once again for the marvelous things that are represented in your word. For the tabernacle, for the temple, for your people. You're so awesome, so marvelous, and so wondrous. Father in heaven, we thank you so much. And we thank you for your son, Yeshua. We love him, Father. We want to be married to him. We just ask you to help us to continue to grow and to overcome and to abide, Father in heaven, according to your will and your purposes, so that we can glorify you and him. And Father in heaven, give us a good night's rest tonight. Help us to think about things. Help us to think about your word. Your word is what we need to be thinking about, and we need to be having it written into our minds and our hearts. And so we ask you just to be with us and do those things and help us to be living lives that are more and more pure with each passing day. And we give you the thanks and praise and commit all things into your hands. And Father in heaven, seek your blessing and your dismissal now in the name of your son, Yahshua the Messiah. Hallelujah. Amen. Yahweh bless. Shalom.